On Friday, my channel hit 200,000 subscribers on YouTube on the 24th of June. And I wanted to do a video that's kind of an update about what that means, what I think about the channel, what's the future of it. But first and foremost, I want the actual video to have some value in itself. Like, it's not just going to be one of those short ones that you see YouTubers do that, like, oh, thanks for helping me, are you guys? And like maybe like a tear, and then like, oh, yeah, I'd never be here, and then tell some like sob story or whatever the fuck, and like, oh, remember to like and subscribe, guys. Oh, I promise to do loads of videos. I'm not going to do any of that shit because I actually think the video itself should be able to stand and have some things within it that are interesting. So, I mean, you can see that I'm not someone who does that kind of shit where I'm just trying to pump up the subs and I'm just trying to pander to people. I mean, I'm not someone who just like spams shit in the videos itself, tells you, oh, like and subscribe, guys, and thumbs up. Don't do any of that shit. Don't try to pump the subs that way. Don't do giveaways. Don't spam Twitter and Facebook telling people to subscribe. That's mainly because in a very literal sense, I don't actually care how many people subscribe to the channel. Now, it'd certainly be nice if people like the videos and people like the direction that things are going in. I get more subs and there are more views and therefore I get more money, and also I have more of a platform and just people enjoy the videos. That would all be great. But ultimately, I want the right people to follow this channel and to watch the videos, not all the people. Like, if the people who don't like the stuff or they find it obnoxious or irritating or whatever, then don't watch it. Don't follow it. To unsubscribe is not the right place for you. I'm never trying to sell people on this false notion of what the channel is or what it's going to be about or the direction of where it's going to go in the future. If you like the things that are here right now, subscribe and watch it. Otherwise, probably not for you, mate. Probably other stuff out there. There's lots of great channels on YouTube, probably ones that fit your tastes better. And some that you might want to watch as well. It's certainly not the only channel to watch. Now, what's interesting about reaching 200,000 subscribers at this point in June of 2016 is that it's only November 25th when I reached, when I put out my video that was making 100,000 subscribers. Although actually I had hit 100,000 before then. I'm trying to think if that's when the video came out, and I'll put the video up there, by the way. And again, in that video, it's not just about 100,000 subscribers. I actually tell you some of the background of how I came to do the channel, why I made my own YouTube channel, why I stopped working with other companies and went freelance, and how I built it up and what the logic was behind it, and some of my ideas about certain series that I had there. And there's going to be similar concepts here, but they'll be different. I won't tell the same stories and the same insights. There'll be different ones in this video. But it's interesting that it's only taken me essentially around 7 months to double the subscriber base, which just shows kind of like how YouTube scales up. And if you do a lot of work, because that's a key aspect to how I've been able to do it, is I put out a lot of videos, and I put out a lot of videos that are topical, and I put out videos that are on interesting subjects, and I build up a series and concepts so that if you like one video, yeah, odds are you're going to like another video on that series. And maybe even if you don't like the overall topic, if you've learned the way I think, or you've kind of tuned into my frequency, maybe you want to hear what I think on it anyway. And maybe the interest for you will come from watching the video, not the initial curiosity of wanting to know what I'm going to say in the video or knowing about the topic already. So I think that's part of why I've been able to build things up and naturally, organically build this base of people who want to watch the channel without spamming everyone and without trying to trick people and do false advertising and just get people by any means necessary. Like, unfortunately, a lot of people in the world seem to want to do for whatever reason: money, fame, attention, whatever it might be that's their motivating factor. Now, in terms of the channel itself, I certainly do wonder how far it can keep going, because for me, I never had any preconceptions about this, and I don't have any goals for it either. Like, I don't have like, oh, I want to get to 1 million subs. Might not even be possible, especially not with the kind of stuff I want to do. Like, maybe it's possible if I sell out a little bit, or I kind of pander to people, or I tone down certain aspects, or I narrow in on certain things that people like and try and make spam like sequel videos to that. Yeah, maybe in that sense it would be possible to get to 1 million. If it's not doing what I'm going to do, I'm fine where it is right now. In fact, I'd be fine if it went down to 100k subs again, because it was the platform that I wanted to get out there, the videos I wanted to do, and 100k subs was still pretty cool. You still got some money from it, you still had some platform, you're still in a position where people could see things, you could get your thoughts out there and articulate them or work through and learn things. So I'm totally fine wherever I am. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes. It's interesting. It's not any sort of like imperative that it has to get higher. It is worth saying that, I mean, it is interesting I've gotten even this far in that short amount of time, because I've only been actually spamming YouTube videos, like doing a lot of them, for something like, I think it's about 20 months I calculated. So not that long, actually, less than 2 years. And I obviously I told the stories in the other video, the 100,000 subs video, about why I came to do it and what the reasons for it and what my concepts were. But from doing it for this long and from doing all those videos, I have no plans to quit doing esports stuff for YouTube. That's not even in the future whatsoever. I can't even think of a time when that will happen. Like for me, these videos on this channel is going to always be one of the key bedrocks, baseline aspects of my work, and it will be a stable component of it for years to come, unless YouTube itself dies off, or the ad revenue stuff just dies out to the extent I have to just do them for the odd one on the side and I have to devote more of my time to other parts of my work. But right now, it's in a great place where I plan to do this consistently for years to come, ideally, as long as I'm still into esports. So as long as I'm still into esports, you don't have to be concerned at all. This channel will exist and videos will continue to be put out on it. Even if I do video work elsewhere for other people for more money, or because it's a different platform or branded, or I'm working in a different capacity on another project, I will always maintain this channel. That's my plan at least, and my own brand via this channel. Because that's the key thing about this channel. That means it holds so much value to me. Even before I used to make any decent money at all off it, and it didn't have that many subs and exposure, the key reason it had value to me, and I put in a lot of effort to it and put out a lot of videos, is because I own this video channel completely. All the videos on it belong to me. I make all the revenue off it. I've built all the brands that are on this channel. I own all aspects of it. So the more I work in it, the more I'm investing in my own future, my own brand in the future, and I get more success in the future on future videos based on the work I do now. So that's very satisfying, and it's just a beautiful place to be in terms of creative control, etc. Because obviously I did work the majority of my esports career, which has lasted 15 years, working for sites like SK Gaming, Acer, OnGamers, where when I made video content, no matter what I put into it and how I crafted it and how I built in series, that all belonged to them. And the day I stopped working for them, I got nothing else from that. There was no residual benefit, and I lost those brands. And even worse, I didn't even build my own personal brand at the same time. So it was a great period in my career. I enjoyed lots of different aspects of that. I probably needed to learn those things that I was in those situations, and at times in the past, obviously associating myself with a bigger brand actually helped. That's not the case anymore, and so now I'm in the position I'm in now. And one of the things I love is the absolute freedom I have on this channel, both in terms of ideas, publication, when I publish, what I publish on, how I publish it, the way I format things. It's all up to me. I actually even think that with the freedom that this has allowed me, this YouTube channel, I even think one day I could see a world in which YouTube is all I do. Maybe I'll do that full time. Maybe I'll just sit at home or wherever I want to live in the world. I'll just do YouTube videos. Maybe I don't want to go to events anymore at that point in time. Maybe I don't want to write as much anymore. Yeah, but I'll probably always do some writing. But again, maybe I don't want to write full time anymore. Maybe I don't want to do analysis. Maybe I don't want to go... Well, I can't really think what else I do in this context. I mean, I guess other people do like esports panels and these sorts of things. I don't know. Maybe one day I'll do this. Point is, I'm definitely going to keep doing it. And I can certainly see a world where if things continue on, that might be my full-time job. Now, in terms of sponsorship, because obviously on top of ad revenue, which has gone up as you get more viewers, sponsorship's obviously a primary way you can make money from YouTube and from videos. Now, I actually have a philosophy to sponsorship, which I think is quite different to a lot of other people. Then again, I'm not trying to do YouTube full time like a lot of these other people might be, so I don't judge them entirely. It's just I have a different approach to it, which is, so far you've seen, I've only been sponsored by 2 companies. I was sponsored by Vulcan early on, and I was sponsored by AlphaDraft for a long time, like a year basically. Now, first of all, when it comes to sponsorships, you'll notice the reason I've only been sponsored by those 2 companies is because, first of all, if someone's going to sponsor me, it has to be a legit company. I'm not just going to take some bullshit company that come out of nowhere and I don't know anything about their past, and they could just be ripping all the customers off, or their product might not even work, or it might just be a bunch of bullshit, like it might be some kind of pyramid scheme or some kind of dodgy thing where they might be using your information. If it's anything along those lines and there's any suspicion or anything like that, I just would not be associated with them personally. Also, the actual thing I'm advertising has to be somewhat reasonable. Like, the way I advertise it has to be reasonable. That doesn't necessarily mean it has to be classy, because at the end of the day, advertising is never really going to be very classy as a notion, because you are selling time and selling endorsement, etc. But the whole point is, it has to be something that I legitimately think has some value. Like, I think it's a decent product. I think it does what they say it does. I think if people had that money and they were interested in this, here's a way of finding out about it. And then if they choose to go on to do it, yeah, go ahead. That's why you don't see any of that random bullshit on my channel. Like, I don't try to trick you into thinking AlphaDraft was amazing when I used to be sponsored by them, or that I win there all the time. I don't do any of that. I just inform you of it, and maybe do it in a humorous way to get your attention. But ultimately, if you don't want to play there and you don't want to invest money in that, yeah, you just continue on. It's not a problem for you at that point in time. What people probably wouldn't realize is, I mean, admittedly, I'll preface this by saying, yes, YouTube has been one of the smallest aspects of my career in terms of making money and my salary year to year over the last 20 months I've done it, except obviously the sponsorship was a bigger part. But the YouTube ad revenue, that obviously I don't just do things purely for money, but I could have made a lot more money just off the ad revenue and just off the initial sponsorships on top of the ad revenue that I've turned down. Like if I go to my email that's associated with this account, it's just fucking spammed full all day long with sponsorship offers. Now they're not all fake. Most of these are real sponsorship offers, as in people want to pay me like to promote some app that's just come out, or some gambling site, or some dodgy shit where they'll pay, $300 if I record a video, just a one-off about this service or product, or they want to pay monthly, they'll give me skins if I do some gambling site, or they want to pay me a flat fee and then a percentage affiliate fee if I promote this app. And also, so I don't do any of that shit, because I think for me, none of that's interesting. I don't know why that would be interesting to my viewers, and I think it's all bullshit, quite frankly. So I don't think most of that stuff's reasonable. I don't believe in that stuff, and so it doesn't matter if it's like $300 a month. I'm not going to do that. I'd rather not have the $300 and not have that shit in my videos, cluttering it up or wasting people's time with stuff I don't think that I'm interested in or you're interested in terms of my ideal viewer in that sense. Also, likewise, in the sense that people want me to do one-off videos, all of a sudden they'd be crowbarred into it. No, I'm not going to do that. That's another thing. It has to be actual partnerships. There have to be companies where I think it's worth endorsing and they want to be partnered and associated with me, and it's going to be a partnership that goes forwards for whatever period of time. Now, it doesn't have to be a long-term period of time, but it has to be a real thing that we're investing in each other and we're going to do something here. And that's not just going to be fly-by-night where one day it's this thing I'm promoting, then next day it's that, and then the next thing at the beginning of the video it's this one, then a different one at the end that's totally different, and then you never see them again, never hear from them again, and you never know if it's a rip-off or if it's a scam or what I got for it. No, we're not going to do it that way. Also, just like this video in itself, where I'm trying to break things down, explain the philosophy of things, even sponsorships have to have some value, in my opinion. So either they're going to be like the Alpha Draft intros, where, they had their own value as pieces of comedy, as skits, as unique little ideas. Because obviously I used to just do a line at the beginning, and I thought to myself, that's not actually that interesting. And also, if you say something monotonously, this is the same way over and over again, people are just going to tune out, aren't they? Or they're going to skip forwards 5 seconds. So I thought, you know what? I'll try and do a different one every time. And I'll try and do a little spin on it. And I'll try and do jokes. And I'll try and do funny things. I'll try and tie it into what I'm saying in the video. And as a result, just as little unique moments themselves, they had some value or some interest or some comedic value or something that was enjoyable for just an instant where you might listen, even though it's commercial. Obviously, you've heard before, and as much as you know the company that I'm going to be advertising and talking about my sponsorship with. So just as those have to have the value that way, that's the only way I'm going to do sponsorships. It's either going to have its own little value there, it's going to be its own little reason to exist, or it's just going to be a logo. So it's going to be one or the other, and you're just going to see the logo in the background, and then therefore it's not going to take up any of your time. You'd just be seeing blank space or a different part of the background if I didn't have that. So again, there has to be some value, and it has to be reasonable in the way they do this. Some of the people that actually inspired me in terms of making my unique intros is, if you've ever heard of Duncan Trussell Family Hour podcast, he did all these commercials on there for this like t-shirt company where, he would just go way out there. Some of his were so abstract and so funny and so crazy that I used to love listening to him myself when I listened to that podcast. Likewise on Bill Burr's Monday Morning Podcast. Okay, he does more like off the script about these certain things, but as he's doing it, he'll just be like riffing on like buying flowers because your girlfriend just like kicked you out the house yesterday, and you're gonna get this bitch back by buying that. Like he'd just go completely, and he'd make even that funny. So I saw a value in that. I thought, hey, fuck it, I should try and do things along those lines. There will be probably more sponsorships in the future, but like I said, it's going to be within this like reasonable metric and model of how you would have a sponsorship and the reasons why and how it will be presented. It's not going to be some bullshit. Now, one thing I wanted to give people in this video, which is the main part of value for it probably, is some more insight into some of the concepts of the series and the different aspects of the channel, but that are different from the 100,000 video. I actually listened back to that, so I would make sure I didn't go over the same ground. So first of all, one thing that's interesting for people, I thought maybe, would be the Reflections series, my long-form interview series. So the most recent episode, I'll link it up there, was one with Sean Gares, legendary North American CSGO in-game leader. And these came, as I referenced in the 100,000 videos, these came where originally when I was working at SK Gaming, they had a feature called One-on-One. And this was actually started by Carmack, who's now the product manager or some head person at ESL and works on IEM primarily. And his were very, very different to what I modeled it into, because his were, they were usually like 8 to 10 minutes long, and they were normally like a player he knew to some degree, or someone he had like some funny repartee or rapport with. And some of it would just be like trying to get funny stories about the person when they were growing up or what they're like as a person and their mind, etc. It would mainly be along those lines. Whereas personally, I've never been. That's where we have a difference in philosophy. I'm not interested in the person as much, more the mind of how they apply themselves to the game and how their philosophy is on the game and what they do in the game and how they think of it, how they model it, how they see opponents, how they plan for things, how they react to things. That's more interesting to me because I'm more interested in the person in the game than the person outside of the game. Outside of the game, some guy might just be some 17-year-old Swedish nerd who's super frail, hasn't ever had a girlfriend, and knows like 5 trap songs because he doesn't have time to listen to music because he's playing this game. Inside the game, he might be some fucking god who has incredible intuitive sense or amazing strategical innovation or some special talent for a way to do something that we haven't seen. You can see which is more interesting from my philosophy. So that's the way I've gone in my work. So that's the way I took this series. Now, interestingly, my boss at SK, the Slash, actually used to do the one-on-one series between Carmack and me starting it. And when he did it, he would do it kind of a bit like the Carmack series, but he tried to model it. Like he actually said, like, it should be like three parts. And then the first part should sort of be like, like how do you get into gaming? And then another part should be like stuff now. And then another part should be like, what do you think the future of esports is? And he tried to model it like this and hand this down to me. But as I do with all the things that I do, I take that solving coagular alchemical approach where I break things down first and then I put them back together again the way that I think they should be done. So I broke it down, and like I said, I came to these conclusions. I want to do these long form things. I want to do things where I get really in depth on things. I don't want it necessarily to have to be 3 or 4 parts. Now at SK it did because that was the formula. But when I left and I made Grilled, which later became Reflections, because obviously that's the spiritual successor to Grilled, Reflections as a concept was, these are going to be these things where I ask lots of different questions, and it's a narrative. It goes from one question to another question to another question, and we keep following trails, and we have a lot of room to be able to get into details on things, and if something's interesting, to keep going and mining in that area rather than just having to go to the next area. And we're never having to do generic stuff like, oh, what was your first game you played? Oh, Mario, how interesting. Like fucking everyone in the universe says that. And it's also not like, what do you think of the future of esports? Will it be on TV one day? None of that lame shit. We're just doing interesting stuff about this guy, his career, and what he thinks about the game. We're trying to get into his perspective and have him reflect on things and think about things and be insightful if possible. That's the way I wanted to go instead. Now, interestingly enough, one thing people wouldn't understand is because of the way YouTube works, where it has that feature where it will like show you where you are in a video, and it'll skip like to 58 minutes if that's where you quit in a 1 hour, 30-minute video. Just because myself, I sometimes found it annoying when videos were split up and I couldn't remember which one I'd watched and what part I was in. I liked to upload all the reflections as one long video. Even if it was 3 hours long, it's going to be one video and you watch that. Now you have to realize that's another area where I've given up income essentially. If I make a 1.5 hour video into 3 30-minute videos, the same exact video, but I just cut it up into 3 parts, and then you finish part 1 and you click part 2, and then you finish part 2 and you click part 3, I'm making a lot more money than if I have one video, because every other video you click, I'm getting a hit from you there and I'm getting money from that. Now, not everyone who clicks on part 1 is going to get to part 3, but I will make only the money from part 1, essentially, if I just do it as one long video. There will never be the part 2 and part 3 clicks. But in my own personal sense, just in general, I haven't really found it necessary to monetize that way. I haven't really cared about the lost income there. I just like to have it in long form. I mean, I do the same on my other channel, Insight Esports, where I do Summoning Insight. That's like 3 hours long. I could split that up and rake in way more money. But that's not as important right now. And so for the moment, I choose function over finance, as it were. Like, I think it's better the way it is. Maybe one day we'll do something different there, but for now we don't. For now, we leave it as it is. And that's just been one of the philosophies I had early on for this channel. It's also the case that Reflections as a series, since I did my last video, has come on leaps and bounds. Now it does really well. This is a series now where a number of these episodes hit 100,000 views, which is big time stuff, even in CSGO, where CSGO used to always be like half or less than half of the hits in League of Legends. Now CSGO hits are huge, and Reflections in CSGO are really big. And that's very impressive, because it means that now, I already did those episodes when I was interested or I could find time anyway, but now that there's more hits, I can also make it more of a priority, and I can do more of those episodes. That's something I'm interested in developing more. And interestingly enough, I mean, a great example of that, by the way, here's a great example of how that aspect of my channel has grown, is when I did my Dazed interview in early 2015, I remember it initially had, like 30 or 40,000 views, as you'd expect from that sort of an interview at that time in my channel as a much smaller channel. I'd only been going ham on YouTube for, probably 4 or 5 months at that time. But the key thing is, now I'm at a position where that is like in the top 5 of the most viewed videos on my channel, because the residual hits it's got over the year, people looking for days on YouTube or whatever and go, oh, there's an interview, a long form one, watching this, or people linking back to it on Reddit when he said something interesting in there. It's meant that there's loads more views. So as a result, now that's something I can make one of my primary focuses in terms of video. And that's something I've always loved to do, because remember, even though I'm always very interested in that topic of that sort of a long form interview and that medium of how you break down and can talk to a guy in depth, it's also the case that I will always have a sentimental value for that sort of series, because that style of series of long form video interview is literally the vehicle by which I was able to go from being someone who was paid primarily to post news and results on websites. That's how I used to make your money back in the day as an esports journalist, and then did cool articles or things I thought were interesting on the side, to someone where that series was the main thing I could do for my job and then build my brand off. And then I've got to the position now where all I do is my own content that I'm interested in, and no, bog standard like blue collar work of like posting news and posting pics of something and posting results of scores and having to put all this manual data entry, manual labor essentially. I don't have to do any of that. And so what's beautiful is that series has helped elevate it to that point. And now it as a series is at a point where, despite having more fruitful and financially rewarding aspects in other areas over the last year and a half, now it's catching up, and now I can really go a lot more ham on that, which is something I want to do anyway. Now, in terms of the Thorin's Thoughts series, I went through a lot of why I did that and what it was all about in the other video, but one thing I do want to say on this is a series I certainly plan on expanding more, because it's a series where one of the reasons I came up with it actually is, initially, as I said in the other video, it's because I would have lots of ideas that I couldn't necessarily turn into an article, there wouldn't be time to, or logistically, maybe I didn't have all the pieces to do, so I would make it into a video. One of the areas I want to expand that is, oftentimes I'll make a tweet that might be like an interesting tweet, but it's only a sentence or so long, or it's at the beginning of an idea that I don't expand upon. I want to even turn those into more videos, because sometimes those get put on Reddit and get quite high up and we have great discussions about it, but that was just a tweet. If I make that into a video, so essentially on certain topics like that, there should probably be less tweeting and more making of videos, or tweet it and then record a video as well. I think that's probably the direction heading more, where there should be more videos as a result of that, instead of just trying to go for that like one a day or whatever the rough schedule I had in the past was. And also because I'm having so much success with the videos and how many views they're getting and how well they do, even sometimes when they don't get on Reddit or people don't go super ham from Twitter, because of how great that is, because of having 200,000 subscribers, I'm also in a position now where I want to do more videos at random hours of the day. I don't necessarily wait for an ideal time frame. I'll just release one that's not as big a deal anytime, and then someone who's up at 4 a.m. gets to watch that. If they don't watch it, no problem. We move on with our lives. It's a smaller idea. So I definitely want to keep doing more in that sense. And also, in terms of recent success of Thorin's Thoughts, I'm definitely going to focus more and do more videos which are like scene and industry breakdowns. So obviously we can think recently, like I'll put it up here, of like the Fallen SK video where I can go in depth on that, or up here I'll put the CSGO Mo Diamonds one where I'm breaking down what he was saying and what they were saying and trying to give my, like, translating it in my own philosophy of like, do I buy what this person's saying? Does that fit with like how I perceive what they were saying here? Is this factually accurate? Because I think that has value. That's a kind of news reporting in itself. Like, I'm not trying to report just news, but I'm trying to be the expert guy that you would bring in on, what does this mean about the financial markets? Well, this is going to affect that. Now, that's obviously bullshit when it's on TV because those are small segments. But in this sense, I want someone who's an expert, in this particular sense I am in some of these areas, who can give you a different perspective, who can put it all together and say, here's the timeline of things, and then we can match things up and ask questions. Does that fit what he's saying there? And then I can give you my own thoughts on it. I think this guy's lying on this topic. Or, actually, you know what? He's phrased it in a poor way, but I know this person, and I think that there's something more reasonable that he could have said in this way. I want to provide that because I think it provides value to the scene, and we need influential, bigger name people who can talk about these topics. Like I just talked the other day about the cheating video, like does Valve need to hire a cheating expert, and how would that help the scene? Because unfortunately, a lot of the people who are in great positions in esports don't have as many mediums and as many streams of revenue as I do, where they can take chances on these things and dare to put their opinion out there. A lot of them are afraid that they're going to piss off this player or this organization over here or get blacklisted by these people here. Now, I have to obviously play it a little bit careful. I can't go ridiculous, but I can definitely push the boundaries a lot more than other people and will continue to. Like, there's certain companies who I've worked with who I've told them, by the way, if you ever have a problem with me doing that, just tell me straight up, because I just won't work with you again. That's the way it'll be. You won't silence me and stop me from doing these videos. That will never happen. I will literally choose the videos over working with you, no matter what the financial gain might be in that scenario. Because luckily for me, I'm in a very fortunate position right now at least for the moment, where I can make enough money, well, to a degree, as much money as I want, or enough money from all these different revenue streams that I can give some of them up if it means it costs freedoms or things I want to do or things I think are very important to do, and maybe even have ethical imperative. Although I think that's often overstated. Like, it's certainly not some obligation of just like, you must speak out on this topic. No, only if you feel like to you it's important, not just because other people say so. You're not their servant. I hate that aspect of people thinking like journalism or public people. You are the servant of the plebs. Definitely not. I'm not fucking ruled by plebs, mate. Anyway, on that topic. So yeah, I want to do more of those and cut through the bullshit. I also want to have more podcasts, actually. Like Counterpoints, that one I do, which is my general CSGO podcast, is one I definitely want to do more of, because there's so many cool people in the community, and now we have a little bit more downtime. So I feel like I want to get more of them involved, so you can hear their voices and you can hear their thoughts on it. Because the conversations we have in green rooms and privately on Skype, some of them are wicked, and a lot of this detail could come out in podcasts. There just isn't a venue for it. And you know what? I've waited around and seen if other people are going to do it. Some people do it and they're not successful, and they don't put in enough time, they don't brand it properly, and they don't have an interesting host, they don't have the right guests, or they don't structure it properly, or they try to structure it too much. You know what, if I'm one of the only people who can do it, so be it. I enjoy doing it, I enjoy those conversations, and I want to have more of them. And not just for CSGO, I want them for League of Legends more as well. Like, I want to develop more League of Legends podcast concepts for different games, not for different games, for different leagues. Like, I used to have the one for the LPL, which I had on my Insight and Esports channel, which I may put some of the League of Legends one on the Insight and Esports channel if it's going to be more... It's going to be more set talk shows. I'm not sure on that. I might have some of them on my own channel, but I definitely want to expand into some of the other leagues. I don't want it to just be what happens on Summoning Insight, because just as I did with LPL with Frostcore, I want to do that as well. I want to bring other people's voices forwards, people I think are interesting, that I know are awesome, and give them some platform through my own platform, my own network of people and subs that follow my stuff and would be interested to hear me interacting with them, and as a result get to know them. I think that's pretty cool. So I've got a few people in mind I want to work with in that sense. Also, and this might interest people, I'm actually thinking... I mean, it's almost certain it's going to happen. It's just a case of when, not really if, but the when itself might mean like in a year from now. I'm not sure. I have to see how my schedule frees up in the coming months. I have plans to, at some point, start doing videos that are not just about esports. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because at the moment, I'm thinking that I should probably open a second channel, and this channel would still be as it is, with all the videos it is, and there wouldn't be any focus taken away. It would still all be esports stuff on this channel, and the second channel would be basically like everything except esports. So it would be, it would be sports that I'm interested in. It would be art, so literature, music, movies, comic books. It would be my philosophies on things outside of gaming. It would be other concepts that I think are interesting, but that don't really fit the esports spectrum, and maybe this is just going to be an esports only channel that I'm on right now, and that will be everything else. Either I'll do it that way, or before I do it, and since I've got a bit of time, I am looking into talking to other people I know who are big time content creators and people who have experience in these particular areas, and asking them, what are the actual metrics like? Like, do you lose subscribers? Do people just get bored of it, stuff not to do with their particular interest? Or maybe they wouldn't know, not enough of them would know you had the second channel, and they would actually be into it, and they'd like it if it was on your main channel, and maybe you can just merge the two, and eventually it's just a channel that has everything interesting on, including esports. I don't know which way I'll go on that. I'm busy investigating right now, but there's a plan to do one of those two options in the future, so that I can have another outlet just on the side for things I think are fun to talk about, and maybe people who like this sort of stuff would go over there and watch that if that is what they so wanted. So I thought I'd give you some insight that that's something I'm thinking about. I also, in general, do want to develop more shows and more outlets for my ideas. Like, in the same way as Thorin Thoughts has been great for developing my ideas and how I think of my ideas and structure them or model them, and I think it's made me more articulate, actually, and able to speak. I want to develop more shows like this to have better conversations and whatnot. Like, recently, I watched, I'll put it up here, an episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, which is one of my favorite podcasts, one of the original great podcasts I used to watch. And it was the episode that had Russell Brand on it, who's someone else I've always been very interested in. I even said in the 100,000 subs video about how his Truths series was something that was like influential to me in terms of wanting to break down the esports industry and all the news there. So when the two of them came together, it was basically what I had hoped for. It was this fantastic conversation where they were in a lot of deep areas, and they were able to go all over the place, and they were able to have back and forth. It wasn't just Joe interviewing him. They were going back and forth on their ideas and giving different perspectives and vibing, or sometimes not always agreeing on things. I want some things that are more in that vein, whereas at the moment I don't have that so much. I have me talking a lot. I have interviews where it's just me asking questions. I have podcasts where I get to go back and forwards a bit. But what really happens in terms of like a freer medium like that where I could have cool people on and we can talk a bit about esports and stuff like that, but maybe we also go into other areas as well. I think that would be kind of cool. So I'm thinking of a way I can develop some medium, some vehicle where we could do that as well, because I think that would be a great way also to show people the way things go. And also it's great timing, and as much as, like I say, the Joe Rogan podcast experience and the Trues were influences on my own channel and my own direction I've taken with this stuff. So I also like the idea of being able to have this content, especially on a platform that's now got a decent amount of people watching it, that isn't restricted, that can't be censored by the powers that be, whether that be in esports or outside of it. And you can just have these cool conversations, and it hasn't got that radio rigid format to it or esports show rigid format to it. We can just be a bit freer with that stuff. So I think that would be cool. In terms of, to finish the video, the notion that, well, I've done all these episodes of Thorin Thoughts and all these videos on the channel, I must be like burned out now or bored, like not in the slightest. Like personally, my motivation and inspiration to do this stuff, I'm not even vaguely close to being tapped, because they never will be unless I just don't care about the subject anymore, in which case, maybe with this new channel or in the future, I just apply the same approach to other areas of my life and do all the same sort of stuff, but in other areas and other interests. The whole thing, I think that's a very kind of misunderstood concept, is this notion of inspiration and motivation. To me, it's not some finite amount. It's not something that can be drained down. It's like a muscle. You work on it and you build it up and you exercise it more and it gets stronger and it gets stronger and it gets capable of doing more and it gets enjoyable to do more. And as a result, you only increase. Your level only goes up at that point. Now, maybe you reach a level where you can't do more. Logistically, you can't do more, or you're getting out all your ideas. Great, that would be an ideal world, wouldn't it? That would be idyllic. That would be fantastic. At which point in time, you don't have to do more. Cool, maybe someone else goes and does more. They're inspired and they think there's something cool out there. But I'm not worried at all about running out of this stuff. Believe it or not, that's been the whole thing of my entire career in esports. Is people, little fucking douchebags just sitting back like, you'll get bored. Can't wait to see when you run out of ideas for Thorin's Thoughts. Well, guess what, mate? I wouldn't hold your breath, because, I've done a few hundred so far, still going strong. If anything, getting more interested in doing more of them, so get wrecked. And people like that, I actually just pity them. It's just a sad state of affairs to live like that, because, again, as I say, from my experience, it's not something where you get drained like that. You just become more and more inspired and more motivated. It's more fun to do and you get better at it. So as a result, it's more enjoyable and satisfying and rewarding, and you keep going and you keep going and you try and develop things and try and push things and do more. So that's not a concern for me whatsoever. So you know what? In my last video, I did this humorous thing about how I don't thank anyone. For this one, I do have some people I thank. I'll thank Alpha Draft for when they sponsored me for most of the time of the last 100k or so subs I was getting, because obviously that was additional income that certainly helped me be more free in terms of what I was doing with video and do more videos. I'll thank people who appeared on my podcasts or appeared in episodes of Reflections, because in those particular instances, obviously I can't do those episodes without some people, and it happened to be those people, and many of them did a great job and gave me great content, and I was able to put it on my channel. And remember, most of those people didn't get paid, so I certainly thank them for their time and the great thoughts that they expressed in those shows. But as usual, the lion's share of the thanks at the end goes to myself for actually doing all this stuff, and for, in a actually not an egotistical way, thanking myself in terms of actually working on a vehicle that's allowed me in my own life to be a lot more free and to be express myself in ways that as a person I've been able to enjoy and find satisfaction in, where if I hadn't put in those the graft of doing that and applying myself, my life would probably be in a much worse place. I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much. I wouldn't have the same opportunities that I've been able to get in elsewhere that has nothing to do with YouTube, but is inspired by it. Maybe desks that I do, or interviews that I get elsewhere, or being considered for other projects that I'm about to embark upon in the next few months to a year. So thanks to myself in that particular sense. And we'll see if I ever get to 300,000 subs. I'll do another video and I'll figure out more shit. That'll be different insights and all the rest of it. If I ever get there. If I don't, who gives a fuck? We're having a cool time, right?